So as Justin just pointed out, the purpose of a flash message is to communicate with the user, which improves user experience. It could be a congratulatory or a success message, or it could be a failure message. This is you did something wrong, and we could be specific or vague or whatever. So as I mentioned, I prefer using the Sinatra Flash gem. So we'd start, of course, by adding that to our gem file. I'm going to go to my gem file. And I don't have any flash listed here, so I'm going to add gem Sinatra dash flash. That's the name of the gem, I think. We'll find out. So I'm going to save my gem file and run bundle. And if I read through these the documentation here quickly, I see like, okay, here's some stuff. I have to install it. Then it says I should require, enable sessions, okay. And then it looks like here there's their Bleh app example. They show us in the controller that's inheriting from Sinatra base, besides enabling sessions, we're also going to register Sinatra Flash. And let's see what that looks like. My main controller is application controller, and I actually have a configuration block here, where I'm setting the public folder, the views, I am enabling sessions and setting the session secret. So this seems like a good place to register, and I believe it's Sinatra Flash. Before I add this code here, I'm going to see what happens when I run my application. The purpose of require, well, actually, I'm going to turn that into a question. Why do we have these requires? What does require do for us? Anyone want to take a stab at that? You should have had to answer that question probably in your CLI project review. Anybody bold and daring? If you don't want to say it out loud, you can drop it in the chat. What does require? What is require? What's happening here? Anyone? Does no one know what require does? I know you do. You know what require is, and you're just itching to tell me. What does require do? Require is
I want to say require is requiring the gem for that specific file.
Okay, yes,
Gem,
yes.
but...
Yes, so exactly, right, not necessarily a gem. It may or may not be a gem, right? But it's a file. We're requiring a file. And so here we're looking for, require is actually looking for the name of a file, and it's going to execute that file, right? We're going to load this stuff into memory, right? Very often we're going to be requiring gems. Okay, so when we use require, require typically is going to be looking for gems, right? Like a prerequisite, exactly. And that just loads a bunch of Ruby code. That's all it does. It executes and loads a bunch of code, right? That it then makes available to us to use. And so that's all that's happening. The reason that this example is saying require these things is because they need to load in order that we have access to, in this case, Sinatra Flash. And it's likely that we're going to have a module called Sinatra and a class somewhere called Flash nested under that module. It's okay, not to be confused with any other module or any other class called Flash, I should say. Okay, we're using module namespacing there. So let's look and see what happens. Did this thing load? Did it work? Localhost 9393, that's where we want to go. And either I'll see a big old load error or this thing worked. Okay, oh dang it, besides this, sorry about that. I need to change my file. This error here doesn't have anything to do with what we just did. So I'm just going to go ahead and do what it says, which is prepend bundle exec, shotgun. And I just need to update my stack or my gems because there's a conflict here. It's saying, hey, you have 2.06, but the gem file says 2.05. And I already know that there shouldn't be any issues, so I'm going to go ahead and go forward with bundle exec. So now if I refresh the page, for those of you who are not familiar with this is just a very, very, very simple journal app. And I'm going to go ahead and log in. And let's log in with no credentials. And, ooh, that shouldn't have happened. Awesome. Okay, Great. This is great. This is good. So this is not what I meant to have happen, but this is good because I just encountered a bug that would actually be a problem if I took this to my assessment and said, hey, this thing works great. So I just entered no credentials into login. So even though this is not Sinatra Flash, this is still something that we need to attend to. So it looks like I have this undefined method authenticate from nil class. So somebody want to tell me, what is this error message telling me? First, let me ask, is this telling me that my users don't have a method called authenticate available to them? Or is it telling me something else? I know you guys know this. I know somebody's just like, I know the answer, but I don't want to say it. You can paste it in the chat. You can say it out loud. This is an error. Every Ruby developer sees this error from time to time, sometimes frequently. There is no user, Nadia. That is correct. Okay, it means that this user thing here didn't get assigned to a user object. It doesn't mean I don't have an authenticate method. It means there is no authenticate method for nil class, for nil, which is an object of nil class. Okay, nil doesn't have an authenticate method. Well, nil's not supposed to. And that means that the thing I tried to call authenticate on, the object on which I invoked the authenticate method, actually had a nil value at that time. In this case, it's that user on line 18 of my user's controller. So let's find that quickly, and this is a very easy fix. Okay, so post login, I'm assigning my user based on the email. What I'm not accounting for is if this fails. Does anyone know how I can fix this? I can literally use, let's see, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 characters will fix this. All I have to do in this case is add another condition here. What I want to say is if at user and user.authenticate. So here, exactly, good. Sarija, you put it in there right as I was typing it, or right before I typed it, yes. If user and user.authenticate. So I won't get to the, if at user returns nil, nil is one of only 2 values in Ruby that return a falsy value, nil and false. And if this thing is nil, then the if statement fails, we immediately go into the else, which means that we won't even run what's on the right side of the code here, and I won't trip this error. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to refresh this page, resubmit the form. And if you recall, and just to be clear, what I did was I just clicked login. And nothing happened. Okay. Oh, I forgot to fill stuff out. Okay, so let's just say I'm like this horrible string at whatever.com. I'm pretty sure I already signed up on this website. My password is blah, blah, blah. Let me try to log in again. Let's see. I'm sure that I already created this username, right? I'm sure I did. I must have, right? Okay, so let's see what happens here. I should be logged in. Yep, and I can go to my journal entries. Wait, what happened? Okay, so this is what we're talking about, Flash message. I just got sent back to the login page. I'm sure I logged in correctly. What happened? I got no feedback from the website. This website is busted. I'm never going to use it again. Okay, so this is a use case for Flash messages. By the way, application controller configuration must have run and we didn't throw an error, which means that there was no need to include require Sinatra Flash as the instructions implied. Does anyone know why? Why did this work? Any ideas?
Do you already require it in your environment?
Exactly. I already require it in my environment. When I say require config environment, let's look at config environment. There's config, there's environment, and require bundler setup, bundler.require default. This is the key right here. We're actually going to require our entire gem stack. All the gems in there are going to get pulled in. Require also all the folders within the app file. So everything is getting loaded up here already for us. If we called require again and we had already required the gem, no big deal. It doesn't I believe Ruby is actually smart enough not to load it an extra time, but it would be redundant code. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's exactly right. Nice job. Cool. So now let's talk about how we use Flash. What in the world is Flash message? Like, how do we use these things? Does anyone want to take a stab at sort of a brief outline or a general high-level explanation of how Flash messages work? I have this register Sinatra Flash, which means somehow I'm allowed now to use Flash messages, but what does that mean? Anyone? So I can look through the documentation if I want. And it looks like I've got like if flash blah, and then like blah, blah, blah. Boy, these guys are not very exciting when they wrote this code. Have you ever felt blah? Oh yes, flash blah. Otherwise, okay, yeah. So these guys think they're funny with all their blahs and their bless and their blab and stuff. But what it means is that I now have access to a hash called flash. That's alliterative, I guess. A hash called flash, where I can assign key value pairs to a Flash message. And the life cycle of a Flash message, once I create it, is exactly one HTTP request. And that's important, okay? So what does that mean? So let's see. Let me go into my user's controller where I just tried to log in and I failed. Okay, I did not log in. So here's where I'm going to generate a Flash message. So similar to using session and adding a key value pair, I can simply add a key value pair to this Flash hash that I now have access to. By the way, let's actually look at it. So I'll say Flash message equals your credentials were invalid. Please sign up or try again. Okay, I think that's a decent message. I'll give this message like a C+. It's not a great message. And I'm actually going to stop this in its tracks with a binding.pry. And let's run this code again. So I'm going to go back and do I need to refresh? I don't think so. I think this will work now. I have no email entered, or maybe I'm like, oh, I think my email is like hbd.com. I'm pretty sure that this is the right one, right? This is what I signed up for. Let's see. And my password was goldfish. Why not? Right? Goldfish. I think this was it now. If you're like me, like you'll never remember your usernames and passwords, and it's a good thing that they built these like password managers that if they ever get hacked, we're gonna fail. Okay. Oh, okay. It looks like that's not the right one, right? This is not. I don't have a user with this email and this password, so it failed. So now I'm in this binding. What I want to show you is this thing called Flash. Check it out. It's just a hash. It's a Flash hash. I like saying that. I shouldn't have so much fun saying Flash hash. Flash has no keys, no values in it right now. Okay, and I should have put the binding 2 steps ahead. Oh, shucks. So what I'm going to go ahead and exit this binding, which will gracefully step along, and let's see what happens. Nothing. I got sent back to my login page. Okay, get login, which is what should have happened. But nothing is displayed. I created this great message, but what happened? What happened to this message? And what I should have done was, what can I do? Let's redirect to login, actually. So let's try that. So I'm going to redirect to login, and I'm going to put a binding here. Actually, I'm just going to do a puts message. Puts with a bunch of stars so we see it. Flash is, and then puts, puts Flash. Can I puts a hash? I think I can. Let's try it. So I'm going to remove the binding from inside of here. I'm going to create my message, save it, and I'm going to try to log in again. And this time I'll try like Frank at Franklin.Frank. Okay, I think that might be it. And then my password was, I don't know, Coney Island. Spelled wrong, I think. Okay, let's try this again. Let's see what happens. So now, hopefully, I should go through. I know this is going to fail because I'm creating, by the way, of course, these bogus logins. But I'm going to redirect to login, and when I do, I should get these puts messages, and let's see what they puts us. There's Flash is. Oh, check it out. Now this hash is populated with some information. I get this nice message that says your credentials were invalid. Please sign up or try again. Awesome. But how do I take advantage of that? So that's the question at hand, right? How do I take advantage of a flash message and display it to a user? Where and how would I want to do that? Does anyone know?
Only because I did a little bit of research on it. I'm pretty sure you have to put something in the ERB file with HTML.
Exactly.
I have no idea where. How.
Okay, so let's think about it. What page are we landing on here? What file, what ERB file are we ending up in this case? Right here.
You're in your login.
Yeah, I'm in login, login.erb. So I could, inside of my login.erb, if I wanted to, let's find it, views, login.erb, I could put something up here that says if, it's nothing more than a little bit of logic. If there's a flash message, in other words, if the thing's not empty, if flash message, and I just called this key message, I could call it anything I want, but that's what I called it. I'm not going to forget my end. And I'm just going to display it, let's say as like an H3. And I'm just going to use, again, Ruby ERB tag interpolation, flash message. So if it exists, display it as an H3. I save that. And now let's do Tony@t.com, which I'm sure is not in here with some ridiculous password. I'm going to refire this thing. Let's see what happens. Check it out. I get your credentials were invalid. Please sign up or try again. Okay, that's a little bit better at least. Like now I have some idea of what went wrong. So that's a good start. But what I would have to do is I would have to put this logic anywhere that I might end up after failing, which is going to be probably a lot of pages. So what if I want to put this someplace where it's always going to be available and always catch an incoming flash message and display it to the user? What's that file that's always going to wrap the rest of our ERB code?
Your layout.
My layout. And I think that's a pretty good place to put it. So I'm going to cut that out of here. I'm going to find my layout file. Somewhere near the top of the body, I'm going to say maybe below my little nav bar, but above my yield. I think this feels like a good place. I'm going to put the exact same logic with a little H3 of my flash message. Now, I'm going to go ahead and log in with some valid. Well, first let me just take this out. Take out my nonsensical stuff, which my puts is. I don't want to put these anymore. And now let's say that I want to create a new journal entry. So I'm going to go ahead and log in with valid credentials now. Howard@howard.com. I think that was it. Password. I hope that's right. Actually, now I'm really not sure. I guess I'll get a flash message if I'm wrong. Let's see what happens. Okay, looks like it worked. So now I'm going to create a new journal entry, and I get my form for some content. I'm going to create the entry, and let's see what happens. Let's find my journal entries controller. When I sent that post request with an empty content, okay, then here's where I'll land back at the form, okay, but I didn't get a message. So what I have to think about when it comes to where do I want to build my flash messages, I have to think about where's the logic where I end up when something goes wrong, if it's a failure message, or even when something goes right, okay? And so so as an example, I might say, well, if I fail to create this journal entry, then I'm going to say else, I'm going to create a flash message that says something went wrong, which is a terrible flash message. I hate seeing that on a website. Something went wrong. Like, you're my banking app. Why are you telling me something went wrong? Did I lose all my money? You know, it's like it's terrible feedback. But we'll talk about how we could actually improve this feedback here in a minute. But what if I want to say like something went right? You know, like congratulations on your new journal entry or something like that. So I'm going to say that up here. Flash message equals journal entry successfully created. Okay, so now I have this thing was successful, this thing was unsuccessful. Now I've created two different flash messages. So when I create a new journal entry, I should see one or the other. Either it worked or it didn't. And so this is good feedback. So here's where I'm building my flash messages, and I put my if statement to catch any flash message in my layout so it will always display, and I've decided to call it the same thing, by the way, regardless. I could, of course, pick a different key, right, for error as opposed to message, and I would have to add this logic in wherever I'm displaying my flash messages. An advantage of this is I could actually style a div to handle a friendly flash message that's maybe green, and then maybe a div to handle error messages whose text is red, right? And then I can show those different formats depending on if it's an error message or a happy message. In this case, I'm just going to stick to one key, but that is an option. So if I create my entry that's empty, I should see something went wrong. Okay, it's all the way up here. I don't know if this is the best place for it, but anyway, there it is. That's good. Notice that if I refresh the page, I've just sent a new GET request to journal entries new, a brand new one. Actually, it's this one right here. My flash message is gone. It only survives one HTTP request. Now if I actually create one, today is the day before Thanksgiving, and I create this entry, even on success, I should end up with another flash message that says journal entry successfully created. So let's see if that happens.
So you're saying the flash hash only lasts one HTTP request?
Yes.
So it completely wipes it out of all keys as well?
Yes.
For each new request?
That's correct. That is 100% correct. And that's why that's where flash comes from, right? That's the flash, right? It's there and it's gone. And that's all we want. So notice again, if I refresh this page, I got journal entries successfully created. Today is the day before Thanksgiving. This is great. Like, that's a happy message. If I refresh this page, I'm going back to my show page. And I do want to show you one other thing, which is a hang-up that sometimes gets people. Suppose that I want to send some flash message here that says like flash message equals you are looking at your show page. Like, this is a silly message, but whatever, that's what I'm putting. Okay, so let's see if we see this message appear. I'm going to now refresh the page again, and I'm going to hit this route, which is going to build this flash message, and then I'm going to render the show page. Does anyone know what's going to happen? Nothing. Oh, that's weird. So then let's see. I'm going to go back to my index page, see what happens. What? Oh, sorry. All right, so that just screwed everything up because I left a hanging slash there. Oh, wait. What? Huh? You are looking at your show page? No, I'm not. I'm looking at my index page. What happened? Anyone know? So flash messages last exactly one HTTP request. They're not available until we fire that HTTP request. So where you can't put a flash message is inside of a route that ends with an ERB. It will not work. And that's what I'm showing here. And further, it's confusing and bad to do that because this flash message is created and it still is waiting for that new HTTP request to fire. Okay? So this was a render. That was not a new HTTP request. So once we send a new GET request, which I did by changing the URL and hitting enter to going to journal entries, that's when we see our flash message, which of course is not when we want it. So flash messages must be built at specific points in our controller that will end in a redirect, which is great because usually we want them for when we create, update, or delete something. And create, update, and delete controller actions typically end in redirects. Any questions?
No, but I have a feeling I definitely did that when I was trying it out. That's probably why it wasn't popping up.
Yeah, and this is maddening, right? Because you create this flash message and you're like, why is it not showing up? And it shows up the next time. That doesn't even make sense. Like, who invented this crap? But that's why. Okay. So the nice thing here, though, is suppose that I did want to create some sort of feedback for whatever reason and somewhere that involves an ERB. What can I do with ERB? With ERB, I don't need flash messages because with ERB, I can create instance variables that will survive onto the view. So if I needed to give some feedback, I could provide it. And I don't have time now, but I think in the next session, we'll dive in with taking advantage of active record errors to give really good flash messages. So that'll be the first topic we tackle on Tuesday. At least right now, that's the next scheduled time to work on this application. Okay. Any questions? Justin or anyone else? Was that helpful?
That was awesome. That cleared a lot up. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Yeah, I encourage you to use flash messages. It may not be a requirement anymore, but it's really nice to have user feedback. It's good it's good UX, user experience. Yeah, cool. Awesome. I hope you all enjoyed our study session today. Thank you all for coming to the Ask Me Anything Office Hours study group. I'm going to stop the screen.